Hello, everyone. It's Sibyl Star, and I am here to give the astrology for the Aries New Moon that is coming up on March 21st. The Spring Equinox actually occurs just the day before on March 20th. You know, that is one of the cardinal points. It is when light and dark are equal, but the light is growing, okay? And it is a time of new birth here in the Northern Hemisphere. Now, what is super interesting is that we have two new moons in Aries this year. The first one is at 0 degrees Aries. It is, even though it's the following day, it is still within the time frame of being at 0 degrees Aries, which is called Aries point. It is still conjunct the spring equinox and at 0 degrees Aries point. The second new moon in Aries is at 29 degrees, 50 minutes of Aries, and it is our first solar eclipse of the year. And it is square Pluto. And so this is some very powerful Aries energy. All right, so now let's get on. And of course, all of the planets are direct as well. I wanted to say that. So at the Aries new moon, which is on March 21st, and it is at 10:24 a.m. Pacific. This new moon is at Aries point, and Aries point is the beginning of all things. It's the beginning of the astrological year. And the Sabian symbol for this new moon is just so wonderful. And of course, like I said, it is also the Sabian symbol for the spring equinox. And so it is a woman has risen out of the ocean. A seal is embracing her. And to me, what this says, it's about rising out of the great cosmic sea of the collective unconscious into conscious awareness of an individuated self. And it's the beginning of the hero's journey. And as we do, the seal represents to me Mother Nature. Mother Nature greets us on this hero's journey that we are just beginning in this wheel of the year, in the astrological new year. She welcomes us and shows us that we are loved. Now, I do want to say this the spring equinox is about giving birth. You know, there's so much everything is beginning to grow and to sprout, and we're starting to see the birth from the seed that was planted at the winter solstice. The winter solstice is the planting of the seed. The spring equinox is when it starts coming to life, or we know that it's alive, and it starts putting its shoots above the ground. And at this new moon, and of course, it always happens at 0 degrees Aries. And so Aries is also a sign of this increased life force, this increased vitality. And I do want to show you the chart because as you can see, there's a tremendous amount of Aries energy. There's like 7 points in Aries. So let me show you the chart. Okay, here on my screen share. All right, so as you can see, all of this is Aries here. 0 degrees is Aries point. This is actually the point of the spring equinox. And the sun is at 0 degrees 49 Aries. The new moon is at 0 degrees 49 Aries, 49 minutes. And then we also have Mercury, we have Chiron, we have Jupiter, we have the asteroid Vesta, and we have Eris. We have 7 points in Aries. That is a tremendous amount of Aries, okay? The sun and the moon are, of course, conjunct, and they're conjunct Mercury. Now, this new moon is also conjunct, out of sign conjunction with Pisces, with Neptune and Pisces here in the 12th house. That it's about a 5-degree conjunction, okay? Out of sign, but it is still there. And we also have the planet Mars. Mars is at 28 degrees of Gemini, and it's creating a square between the sun and the moon and Mercury, okay? The other big thing, there's another one, the other big aspect that is happening is that we have Pluto up here at 29 degrees, 58 minutes of Capricorn, just getting ready to slip into Aquarius. And Pluto is in a square, you can follow the line here, to the nodes of the moon. Okay, and this is a point of destiny, and this north node is also conjunct Venus. This is Juno is also conjunct Juno and Venus. Okay, um, and actually Saturn is in a sextile to this new moon. The only planet that is not activated much in this chart or integrated, put it that way, is Uranus. Okay. All right, so let's get back to talking about what that actually means. Okay, so as I was talking about, Aries energy is aligned with an increase in life force and vitality. Everything is growing. That's kind of what the image behind me represents to me, as life force. And this is a time when everything is growing, so there's added life force. Like, in the fall here in the northern hemisphere, things are starting to die and life force is receding, but in the spring, it's really pumping it up. So we're going to feel it as well with all those points in Aries, and everything is growing, and it's about giving new birth, like I said. So what is wanting to be birthed in your life? Now, the Aries evolutionary goal is to develop courage, and we are asked to confront our fears and walk through their fire, for as we do, we become self-empowered. And it's so important that we do. We are living in challenging times, and we don't want to be controlled by our fears. We want to be able to walk through them and become self-empowered. Okay. Aries is a passionate energy that often needs a challenge to keep that fire burning in our heart. Aries is kind of like an explosion of energy. It's the first fire, and it really comes on strong, but then it also, can go out quickly as well. So it does need to be fed. Aries, and it's the planet that rules it, Mars, is very much about boundaries. It's where we say no and fight for our right to exist and be who we are. It is about the sovereignty of self. We have chosen to individuate in these bodies, and because each one of us is expressing a different face of creator, we're each coming to have a different experience of separation and perception. Okay. The Aries archetype is very much about the warrior. And in native traditions, the warrior is really more the protector of those who are defenseless, because Aries is the one that can go say no. It's very much a pioneer, a leader, when we are definitely moving into some uncharted territory. And Aries can be blunt, direct, and to the point. Okay. All right. And so Aries is about the beginning of the hero's journey and the individuation process and the needs of the self. But this new moon is also conjunct Neptune, as I spoke about. It is like the individuation of the wave, when the wave knows it's a wave, but also is still aware of its connection to the source and all that is. It is a 5-degree out of sign conjunction, but it is still there, and it keeps us connected to the great cosmic sea of all that is, and remembering that we are never alone and can always ask for help. Now, as I showed you, this new moon, Neptune conjunction, is also in a square to Mars. And a square is a challenge. It's a 90-degree angle, and it's kind of like a compulsive energy. It makes things happen. It's what's called a dynamic aspect. But it can bring confusion and uncertainty. Mars and Neptune together is always like our way forward is just not clear. There is a fog. And so this new moon is pushing us to take a big step, a leap of faith into creating what we want in our lives. But the key is that we must be aligned with our higher self to know what that is. That is the reason for the confusion and the uncertainty, is so that we will go within and check out what it really is our soul's desire. Okay. Because our ego's desires can lead us down the garden path, so to speak. And it is the ego that is creating the confusion, because it doesn't know what to do, because we need to be in alignment with our higher self. We all need an ego to survive here on Mother Earth, but we also need to be in touch with our inner knowing, which is our connection to source. And the more we follow the guidance of our inner knowing, of our higher self, the more the universe reveals the path to us. Each of us are being led toward our higher purpose, and it may be different than what our ego believes it to be. Mars is about how we use our will to go about getting what we want. The more we align with divine will, the doors on our paths will open. But we do need to be paying attention because often the messages are subtle. Didn't call us up and say, okay, this is what's happening next. It's like you really need to create that downtime, that quiet time to be able to listen to that small, still voice within. If we're chronically busy, that is an obstruction to that path. Okay, and Mars and Gemini can absolutely, keep us chronically busy so we can't feel what is wanting to come to us and through us. Okay. Aries says to have the courage to trust the breadcrumbs the universe is leaving and take action when the timing is right. And it may be that you're actually on your path and things are unfolding, but the timing isn't quite right. You need to just really, sit and follow the flow of your own energy. Okay. It is showing us to go through the doors that open. Don't try to force them, for that may not be your door. Okay. All right. I do absolutely feel like Aries is kind of like blast off. It's like shifting into hyperspeed in our evolutionary process. And we are all being asked to stand up and be who we came to be in these times of great change, and to align with our soul mission and the higher frequency dimensions of Mother Earth. On the ego and lower levels of emotion, this energy is creating or can create deeper divisiveness. That is the flip side of this, the shadow, as so much of the field is mired in this confusion, uncertainty, deception, and illusion. And we're being asked to take sides when nothing is really clear. To just trust the information that we are being fed. And I feel like this is on a more collective level, but it is creeping into all of our relationships. Okay. And it is important to understand that this false information that is coming in, which is the Mars and Gemini Neptune square, that's what that can certainly indicate. To understand that there is so much false information being fed and to not participate in it. The old paradigm is collapsing. And so much of what we hear in the media is twisted and false, and it is designed to create divisiveness and hate for those who have a different view or perspective. It's just so important to not participate in this, to see what's happening, to be able to stand back and observe, and not jump right into it. Because all of this Aries can create anger, irritation, and actually the activation of our triggers, which is our shadow material. Anger can be a very motivating emotion, but underlying it is a wound, is a trigger that is trying to come to the surface so that it can be healed. And conflict can show up in the field. And so to just really be aware of, if you're triggered, to remember that this is your trigger. Something happened, something someone said or did may have activated your trigger, but it does belong to you, and it's your job to heal it, to come aware of it and heal it. And not, because the goal is we want to start responding not from our wounds, but from a place of a higher consciousness. Okay. All right. And to know a really big thing that's going on in the external world that we need to be aware of is that those in powerful places are beating the drums of war. They're setting the stage. The most recent event, let's say, of the US drone that was damaged in the war in Ukraine, is truly turning into a he said, she said situation where the real truth of what happened is really unknown to the public and being used to manipulate us. So it's really just pay attention to what's happening and make no judgments, and don't jump into it. Know that there's so much, it's an information war this is what is starting the war. It's an information war, and it's been going on, and it's getting worse, and it's meant to incite and divide us. And the information is not accurate. It's actually deceitful information. Okay. And with Mars traveling in the last degrees of Gemini, where he's been for 7 months, where he's really been showing us how information is used and how to respond to it, where it is meant to be confusing and divisive, and it is bringing up fear. But Pluto is sextile to the new moon, and Pluto always asks for honesty, and it shows us honesty, and sometimes it's a hard truth. And in a sextile is an opportunity. So Pluto is giving us the opportunity to see through the confusion to that place beyond illusion, because there is that place where and it's your heart. Your heart knows the truth. It is the mind that plays games with us. But to do this, we must confront our attachment to the illusion. It can be comfortable believing it, and the illusion can be comfortable, but the illusion, the veil is falling. Okay. So we are at a time where we must confront our fears, for the external world is reflecting them back to us. And the only way to change the external world is to change ourselves. And we change ourselves by making different choices based on the truth that lies in our hearts, what we know to be true, and not the fears that are being pumped into us every day. Okay. Neptune in Pisces is leading us into unity consciousness, where our hearts are merged with a shared purpose. If those in power attempt to create a war, which it does seem that they are beating the drums down this path, it would be devastating to Mother Earth and to every being on this planet. And I do strongly believe that we are at a place of consciousness, that when we come together and merge our hearts together with a shared goal and purpose, we can transmute the energy and change the outcome. But we must be aligned with our higher selves. The thing is, we must be the peace to create the peace. Okay. We are being asked to respond to the energy that is coming in from a place of love and not fear. Fear-based choices just keep us deeper ingrained in the matrix of control. And to know that we are not in this alone. Neptune also reminds us to remember to ask for help from the invisible realm. It's every bit as powerful and present as the material realm. The angels, the star beings, nature divas, our guides, they are all here to help us move through this turbulent and uncharted territory. Now, Pluto is a big player in this new moon as well. Pluto's a big player on the world stage, period, as Pluto is on the new moon is just 2 days away from moving into Aquarius, where it will be for 2.5 months. But for the next 6 months, Pluto is in a square with the nodes of the moon. Pluto, like I said, is at 29 degrees, 58 minutes of Capricorn at the new moon, but moves into 0 degrees Aquarius and goes up to, I think, 0 degrees, 21 degrees Aquarius, and then turns retrograde again. But it is in a square aspect of the nodes of the moon, which I think right now are like 4 degrees Taurus and Scorpio. And Pluto is very much about our evolution. When Pluto is active, it's pushing us into an evolutionary leap. Okay. And the nodes are points of destiny. So on a personal level, if you have planets or angles from 27 to 29 or through 29 to 30 degrees of the cardinal signs, which are Aries, Libra, Cancer, and Capricorn, and 0 to 3 degrees of the fixed signs, which would be Aquarius, Leo, Scorpio, and Taurus, that is really going to impact your own personal life more strongly, or has that potential. And it's also important to know, of course, that Pluto is transiting, 29 degrees of any planet or angle is an anaretic. And especially in Capricorn, what it is showing us, and it's going to be going back once it goes, it's going to be in Aquarius for 2.5 months, then go back into Capricorn, and 29 degrees of Capricorn is really activated pretty much all through 2023, 2024, and even 2025. And it is showing us what is working and what is not. Okay. And it shows us it's all about the choices we make that create our reality. The square is asking for a release of the Scorpio South Node. And that is about old self-sabotaging emotional patterns and drama, old grudges and hard feelings that we've been holding on to for years. Pluto asks for forgiveness of self for mistakes that we have made in the past, and forgiveness of others, for they have made mistakes too. Let it go. We just cannot take this dark and negative energy into the higher frequency realms. That just keeps us tied to the matrix of fear and control that surround this planet. It is the emotions that reside in the lower chakras, such as blame, shame, guilt, anger. All of those emotions keep us tied to that matrix. And this is like a purifying, a cleansing. Pluto is just really bringing them into our conscious awareness. And we have a choice of whether to let it go or hold on to it. Okay. And of course, it activates the North Node. And the North Node is in Taurus. So it's showing in the North Node is the way forward. Okay. And the way forward is being grounded in the present moment. You know, as they say, there is only now. Everything is existing at the same time. There really is no past or future. And this is how we travel these challenging times, is to really stay in the present moment. Whenever we get scared or anxious, just kind of come back into the present moment and say, what is the truth of my reality at this moment? Okay, and most of the time it is our mind that is making us anxious and creating scenarios that may never happen. Okay. And so to be fully in our body and pay attention to the wisdom of our body, because this is an embodied spirituality that we are moving into. We're not transcending our bodies. Our bodies are going to become more, our light bodies are going to become stronger. That is what this is about. And that's why we have to have this cleansing and purging of all of the old and negative stuff, but also to take care of our bodies so that they can hold the increased light that is coming in. Okay. It is about being deeply connected to Mother Earth, for she is our guide now, and to trust the process that we are in. Okay. On a collective level, I find this very interesting. The Sabian symbol for 29 degrees of Capricorn, and I've shared it before, I just sometimes forget about it, is the directors of a large firm meet in secret conference. I mean, what the heck else is going on right now? It's like, we don't actually need the Sabian symbol to tell us this, but yet it is validating what is happening. And, Aries is so much about, the color red. And I feel like this Pluto, which takes us, so deeply into bringing to light what has been hidden in the dark, and every aspect of our government here in the United States, is just, all of the corruption is coming to light from every place we can think of, from the the government itself, to banking, to the media, to healthcare, to corporations. I mean, the list goes on and on. And the faces behind that corruption that we really never see. I feel like I feel like with all this energy in Aries, which is the color of red, is that we've all been red pilled. It's pretty hard to not take the red pill, because we need to see the truth. And when Pluto entered Capricorn in 2008, it brought with it the financial collapse. Now, as Pluto is at the 29, the last degree of Capricorn, we are seeing what was not fixed, because here it is again. We're having some big financial issues. And of course, we're in the midst of our Pluto return. And here in the United States, which is in the house, the second house, the house of the economy, the house of finance. We knew it was coming. It just hadn't come yet. So now we're going to have to look at this clearly and make choices about how we're going to manage it. And I do believe, though, that when Pluto, because Pluto in the late degrees of Capricorn, like I said, it's really showing us what is working and what is not working. And we have to be able to say, yeah, that's not working. We need something different. Okay. And of course, Pluto moving into Aquarius, it will be there for 2.5 months. And ultimately it will be in Aquarius for 20 years, but we're just dipping our toe in it now. And so it has the potential for a collective rebirth. And people, grassroots movements, people coming together to create something new. That is how we are going to be moving forward, because we discovered our government does not really support us. Okay. Although, like I said, being attached to our illusions, it's scary to let go of that illusion, but yet we can't do anything. We can't create change if we're attached to an illusion. And so I do want to bring up a couple of things of the last time Pluto was in Aquarius, and was around mid 1700s to around, I don't know, I can't remember, but anyway, about 15 to 20 years once again. And it was also, I didn't know this, I just discovered this, that it was also square the nodes in Taurus and Scorpio. And this was during the French Revolution. That was the first thing that happened. And of course, Aquarius is the sign of revolution. And what happened in the French Revolution? I mean, yes, it was bloody and it was horrible. And it was the downfall of the monarchy in France, which eventually weakened the whole system. And so for the first time, the rights of the individual, not just the wealthy, is what mattered. It was bloody as we know it. And the North Node was in Scorpio. Okay. Something else that happened in 1790, the French Revolution was in 1789. In 1790, here in the United States, the Constitution was ratified, which codified the Bill of Rights for individual citizens. Okay. And so those were really big events that really changed the whole paradigm here on didn't change it completely, but I mean, it really brought in the rights of the individual. Okay. And this was also around the same time that Uranus was discovered, which is the ruler of Aquarius, or the modern ruler of Aquarius, which is also about revolution. But this time the North Node is in Taurus. So I feel like it's showing us the way forward is more about peace and being connected with Mother Earth. We know what happened in the linear past, but the future is really uncharted territory. So we must trust our inner guidance and inner knowing to take us there. And with Pluto, it's always about the choices we make. Pluto requires honesty with self and others. In our hearts, we know some of these truths, some of these hard truths. We just need to acknowledge them and to align ourselves with what we know in our hearts to be true. The structures of our current paradigm are crumbling because they cannot support us any longer. And over the next 6 months, I think we're going to really see a lot of it with this square to the nodes. And it is important to remember that the external world is a reflection of the inner world. And so as the paradigm crumbles, this paradigm has been based on fear and hierarchical control. And so a lot of that is being released. What has been used to control the people is crumbling. Although, believe me, there are last stand attempts where they're going to really, where the control is going to really be tightened. But it because the fear is rising, but the key is releasing. The fear is being released in the field. And so the key is to know that it is flowing, but to not attach yourself to it. Breathe through any contractions that arise. Own what is yours and then release it, and then forgive yourself and others, because we are moving out of this paradigm, but it is challenging. And the last thing I want to talk about is Venus. Venus is conjunct the North Node in Taurus. And Venus is, one of the aspects of the Great Mother, the Great Goddess. And so she tells us to stay grounded and centered in your body. That's the most important thing. Remember to breathe. We are moving into an embodied spirituality as we shift into higher frequencies. Like I said, it is that our light body that is going to be expanded and become stronger, but we will still be in physical form. A connection with Mother Earth, and to know that changes in our financial system are coming. And we know that over the next 6 months, we might see a lot of intensity around this. But Pluto in Aquarius is going to be showing, square the nodes is going to be showing us a new way forward. And it may be, like I said, it's collaboration, barter, new systems showing up. We're all being pushed out of our comfort zone, whereas Uranus and Taurus is about sudden and surprising changes. Pluto is a slow, steady burn, and we have to feel it to heal it, because it's what's coming up where it's a healing and a cleansing of our emotional body, where we actually hold fear. We must come to know and believe in our own self-worth. Those places where we do not yet love ourselves will show up. This is very much about the integration of the shadow, which is what we need to do for healing, which is loving those places we prefer to not look at in ourselves and to not project them onto others. Okay. Transformation in what we value, that we will fight for what is important to us. And Pluto is also in a square to Venus, since it is in a square to the nodes. And Pluto square Venus is always about trust, trusting yourself and trusting the process that you are in, and trusting your inner guidance, that even if it doesn't make sense now, if you trust the process, it will lead you to where you need to be. Release the past, and self-empowerment is the way forward. Forgiveness. Let go of whatever you're holding on to. Let it go. And so in conclusion, what this new moon is about to me, it's about confronting your fears, walking through the fire. And as this will help, this will be part of the self-empowerment process. Make choices based in love and trust. Fear-based choices keep you tied to the matrix of control. Trust the process. Follow your own inner knowing, as it is our direct connection to source, and it will not steer you wrong. Ask for help. Remember that we are never alone, and that your prayers are always answered, even if it's in ways we did not expect. Forgive yourself unconditionally for mistakes you've made in the past. Let them go. And may you find it in your heart to forgive others for their mistakes. Earth school is not an easy one. And we are shifting into hyperspeed in our ascension process of joining Mother Earth, where she exists in the higher frequency dimensions. We are on our way. All right, so that's what I see. We're in very exciting times. We're going to be going into the eclipse season, which is also very exciting. It's just kind of, find your center and steer your ship from your own inner knowing. All right. So sending blessings to everyone in the upcoming month. We'll see you again for this solar eclipse. And then, of course, I actually see you again for, Monday morning, my weekly astrology forecast, which I will be putting out on Monday morning. All right. Blessings to everyone, and namaste.